Control here from David Nunez. He's 3-0-1. Nick Langella is sitting here at 3-0-1 as well. So they've picked up a draw. Looks like Nick is up a game here with Esper, touching into white for some cards. You see there's an Ashiok out there. And now Nunez is going to tap some mana, play a Perilous Vault, and pass the turn back. And this blue-black control deck, very similar to what Andrew Cuneo, Owen Turtenwald, and some members of the Pantheon played. You can see in the creature department, for example, 2 copies of Pearl Lake Ancient. That is it.
That's the giveaway. Yeah. I mean, no Prognostic Sphinx, no Ashiok, just trying to win with Pearl Lake Ancient.
Of course, the big plan here with this blue-black control deck is to kill your stuff, stabilize high at a relevantly high life total, get Pearl Lake Ancient into play, and just kind of ride it from there, maybe counter a couple spells and draw some cards along the way.
The big difference now is that you have to actually try. There's no revelation in the deck, so you have to work.
It's not as easy as it used to be once you get to turn 8. Langella going to draw a card. So it looks like it's a copy of Dissolve. Ashiok is going to tick up yet again here, so that's going to exile 3 cards. And again, the counter spells here for Langella and 2 copies of Dissolve. So the problem here is he's just missing his land drops.
Well, until this Perilous Vault goes away, he also can't deploy anything onto the board. But the Ashiok is threatening David a little bit here, so it's going to force his hand at some point.
What do we see as far as the white splash is concerned here? Because, of course, Nunez is sitting on just blue-black control, so Esper will provide you with white mana.
Elspeth.
Yeah.
Elspeth appears to be the splash, some Banishing Lights, Resolute Archangel. So even though he's not playing that many white cards, he's playing a lot of double white cards.
Okay.
So he has to go pretty deep into white and play things like Caves of Quellos.
You see he's got a lot of white mana in play here. 2 Caves and then a Temple of Silence. Polluted Delta there for Nunez. Langella's going to draw a card.
Even if you consider the Temple to be free because you want some Scry lands, the Pain lands most certainly are not free. As is just not having enough blue mana. I mean, if he gets into a counter war here, the fact that he has Caves of Quellos instead of islands, that's going to come up. That's a big problem.
Looks like Nunez is going to sacrifice both of these fetch lands. Don't forget, sacrificing a fetch land, of course, you can search for a blue or black land with these polluted deltas, but it does add to the graveyard for Dig Through Time, making that spell cheaper. So that certainly will matter. Well, Langella just needs to draw some lands here. He's got some nice cards. Again, 2 copies of Dissolve among them. Use lands so he can play multiple spells in a turn.
And on the other side of the table, David needs to set up a hand that can play on Nick's end step into David's own main phase to try to overwhelm his counters in one shot.
Evolving Wilds is the card that is played there for Nunez before passing the turn back over to Langella. There's a Swamp. That's not blue.
Nick's up a game, and the outcome of this game is yet to be determined, but you can see the incentive to stay at 2 colors.
Yeah, for sure. Sacrifice the Evolving Wilds here, Will Nunez.
On top of that, David gets to play something like a Radiant Fountain, which is a really nice card for certain matchups.
Especially in combination with Pearl Lake Ancient.
Ho! That is a lock, too.
Yeah. Well, I see
sort of.
I see we're using lock just liberally this afternoon.
It is a lock of sorts.
Let's see if Nunez is able to draw this turn. Copy of Jace's Ingenuity. There's a Swamp, pass the turn back.
And Jace's Ingenuity is the type of thing that allows you to try to overwhelm someone. You can fight at their end step and then play into your own main phase.
It's time to dig through time a little bit here, and there's a Disdainful Stroke. See if Nunez is going to try to resolve Ingenuity while the shields are down. The answer is no, so Langella will draw a card.
I suppose he has to respect the possibility of Pearl Lake Ancient, because once that thing resolves, it's really problematic to get off the board.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing about that card, too, of course, is it can't be countered, so it is just the perfect threat for a control deck. Here's Prognostic Sphinx. Dissolve is going to take care of that. So now that means that Nunez gets the opportunity to scry. Take a look at the top card. It will stay on top. Back we go. Nunez will draw. Last card is Jason's Ingenuity. He's going to cast this right now, while the shields are relatively down. That's going to resolve. So 3 cards coming here for Nunez. Thoughtsy's among them. See if he wants to fire off that discard spell. Going to start by playing a Dismal Backwater and gaining a life. And now there is the discard spell. Langella, well, he's had some mana issues, which means he's got some cards in hand. 2 Dissolves, and Empty the Pits, and a Banishing Light. I love Empty as a win condition in this deck. Yeah, it's got to go.
Yep. At this point, David can, stay in a holding pattern here. Yes, pushing through those Dissolves is going to be problematic, but, whatever. You just can't let him have empty there.
And you've got the info now, right?
Yep.
Okay, I've got 2 dissolves I have to work through. No one said it's going to be easy, but that's what I got to do.
Or I can just try to do nothing until I find Pearl Lake Ancient.
Yep. Temple going to put the top card to the bottom. Nunez will draw a card. Looks like it's a fetch land, and Bloodstained Mire. Pass it back over to Langella. Langella will draw. Now he's starting to work his way out of these mana issues. There's a Temple of Enlightenment. Let's see where this card's going to head. It's going to the bottom as well.
I think that was a downfall that Nick shipped to the bottom.
Nunez going to sacrifice a Bloodstained Mire. That allows him to search for a swamp. So he'll get one of those out of his deck in just a moment here. Well, these players looking for a way to kind of break serve, but you can tell, you know, before we have seen, when a big card drawing spell resolves, it was Sphinx's Revelation, and the game would basically end at that point. Jason's Ingenuity, obviously a good card, but it is no Sphinx's Revelation.
It's not a win condition onto its own.
Yeah. There's Perilous Vault.
It's a good regular Magic card in a sea of good regular Magic cards.
Yep.
So
Langella going to draw. Jose picked up another copy of Banish Land to go along with those 2 dissolves.
I love the Pearl Lake Ancient as a win condition in this deck too. It's the most Cuneo thing that you can do because Cuneo hates cards that only win the game that your opponent can just kill.
Yeah.
So things like an Ashiok, he's never going to want to go near.
Yep.
But Pearl Lake Ancient's pretty tough to kill. I mean, all it does is win the game and block, which Cuneo generally doesn't like. He'd rather just kill you with some sort of millstone or shoveling his deck over with an elixir. But, you know, Pearl Lake Ancient's not bad either.
Last 2 draws from Nunez were pretty good ones. He's got himself a Dig Through Time into Jason's Ingenuity now. I think his last card is a copy of Disdainful Stroke. So things are getting a little more interesting now.
Yeah, but he has an incentive not to do anything as long as Nick's not doing anything because he knows about all the counter spells.
I mean, happy to play Draw Go.
Yeah. Wait until his hand's better, has more counter spells in it, and then start picking fights.
Yeah, absolutely. Prognostic Sphinx can't be countered fast enough. Disdainful Stroke is going after that.
And with the dig as a follow-up here, if David fights over this, this could be a real opportunity for David to shift the game around.
Yeah, Nunez is going to respond to this dissolve with the Dig Through Time right away. So he's going to get to look at, of course, 7 cards, pick 2 of them. Those be added to the grip.
So he can find another counterspell or a Pearl Lake Ancient from here and cause a lot of trouble.
That'll change the way the game's played. Again, his patience has been rewarded here. Looks like he's deciding if he wants his Perilous Vault, and it looks like the answer is yes, he does. The other card that was taken, I believe, was Pearl Lake Ancient. So, Dissolve is going to resolve. Top card's going to go to the bottom. Prognostic Sphinx will resolve. However, so will Pearl Lake Ancient. So, the big guy.
Yep.
The 6/7 cannot be countered. Prowess, of course, makes you want to cast your spells in your main phase to make that into a 7/8. And of course, 3 cards are coming now. So David Nunez is really turning this game around. Once Pearl Lake gets in play, of course, you can't counter it, and it's basically impossible to kill. So it's the perfect win condition for this sort of deck.
I'm a big fan that they put Prowess on this design too, so you don't have Ancients staring at each other in control mirror matches.
Yeah, that's nice.
Someone has to die, you know? Don't really care who it is, just someone.
Another dig through time here. So Nunez is taking the opportunity to do all this stuff while Langella's shields are down.
And this is the type of game where if Andrew Cuneo is watching, he is laughing at someone having Prognostic Sphinx in their deck. Because all of this started because Nick committed mana on his own main phase for, you know, a threat that doesn't really win the game on its own, or it takes a long time for it to win the game on its own. And that allowed David to deploy some more efficient tools, and now the game's completely swung around.
Classic Cuneo deck building.
Yep.
Thoughts he's going to take the dissolve, leave Langella with the Hero's Downfall and a Banishing Light. That's it. And when you know that those are the tools your opponent has, those are pretty easy to beat.
Ooh, and he has the Fountain too.
Combo. In for a bunch. It's actually 9 after the 3 prowess triggers. Convenient, given that Nick is at 18.
Yeah. Like a working man's Aetherling.
Yeah, that's it. They're basically the same card.
Well, Aetherling got countered all the time.
It did. It did.
Pearl Lake Ancient, he just cast.
Couple copies of Hero's Downfall here in Langella's hand, along with that Banishing Light. Nunez knows about 2 of those cards, doesn't know about the Hero's Downfall. The second copy of it, excuse me. There's 3 mana. There's a Banishing Light. Target the Pearl Ancient, and I think we're going to let this resolve. Wow. Someone must have a Perilous Vault.
Yeah.
Here's a Hero's Downfall before Prognostic Sphinx attacks. Now, of course, if you've never seen this interaction before, Prognostic Sphinx, when you discard a card to give it hexproof, it taps it. So you're going to want to do it at the start of the attack step before they attack so that it doesn't get the opportunity to attack and scry 3.
Sure.
The draw here for Nunez. He's going to play a Temple. Very quickly put that top card to the bottom. And now here's the Vault. And so this all makes sense now, given that there are 2 copies of Banishing Light on the table. The Vault can clear both of those away, get him his old Vault back along with the Pearl Ancient, and we can move forward from there. However, Langella has drawn a Pearl Lake Ancient of his own.
And then it becomes the, who can win in combat sort of deal.
It's going to be a showdown.
I've never seen these 2 bad boys square off yet.
They probably mooed each other.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Yep, Langella just going to pass the turn back.
I imagine they roll their eyes at each other like, geez, really? Usually this is so easy.
Yeah. There's the attack. He saw Dismal Backwater, the land played there for Nunez. Now, the synergy with Pearl Lake Ancient, it's just as a win condition and the lands that it can pick up. Again, Radiant Fountain Temples.
Yep.
Dismal Backwaters. They're all relevant. Get you a little bit of value, not a lot. But you grind your opponent down. David, don't counter that.
David was so ready. He had the counter spell at the ready.
Yeah. You see his hand, Disdainful Stroke and Dissolve. That's where things get a little bit interesting here, right? You're probably a little bit scared to block if you're Langella, but you probably have to block because you're sitting at 9.
Yeah. Feels like his hand is forced to some extent.
Looks like he's going to take and go down to 3. So Langella will untap and draw a card. Temple of Silence to go along with Hero's Downfall. The Temple is where he's going to start. Take a look at the top card. Looks like it may have been another copy of Prognostic Sphinx. This might be part of the reason that Cuneo did not want to play this card in his build of this deck. If mirror matches are common, does not seem like the best card in the mirror.
It's too fair. Cuneo does not want to interact with his opponent other than killing their stuff.
Dismal Backwater the draw. I'm just going to pass the turn back. Langella going to play a Temple. Take a look, leave that card on top. Makes you wonder what that card is.
I believe it was Thoughtseize.
It's a good way to break parity. Nunez will draw. Hero's Downfall, easy.
Whoa, not so fast.
There's an attack. There's a block. There's a Hero's Downfall. Doesn't really accomplish very much, though. It's not like the Pearl Lake Ancient tramples.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening here, because it's already blocked, okay, Hero's Downfall, your guy to beat it in combat. Well, you're going to pick it up anyway.
Yeah, this allows Nick to potentially redeploy, and if he finds some answer for the Ancient or some other blocker, he may be able to attack even. So here's 3 mana. Going to pick this up. Pick up these 3 lands. And now, again, as you mentioned, he can redeploy now, too. We'll probably see him do that in just a second here. Yeah, I feel like he can't get too fancy here. Well, the problem with redeploying is that then Nunez gets to go, okay, return my own Ancient to my hand, and then use Perilous Vault. So then that requires another 3 lands to be picked up, which puts him down to 5 mana, which means 6 mana. He's kind of far away from being able to redeploy the Pearl Lake Ancient at that point.
Yep. And that looks like exactly what's going to happen.
And Nunez has enough mana left over to cast his own Ancient at the end of Nick's turn.
Yep. Those are the lands that are picked up.
So oddly enough, I think that Nick could not afford to recast this Pearl Lake Ancient in the spot.
I think you do have to be a little careful for Nunez, as he quickly picked up 3 lands. He can pick up 3 better lands than those.
Yes.
You know, he's got 3 temples that are in play. Dismal Backwater gaining a life, Radiant Fountain gaining a life, and then a basic swamp.
You can do better.
Yeah, getting a little ahead of himself there. So yeah, now he's got to pick up the Ancient again, as you mentioned. So now Langella is down to 5 lands in play. He hasn't played a land yet this turn. So he's going to be up to 6. Here's Thoughtseize. Probably want to cast the Ancient now.
Yeah, seems like a good spot.
You could fight over this with a counterspell like Dissolve. But I don't think a lot. That's what makes Pearl Lake Ancient so good, right? It can't be countered, and if anything goes wrong, okay, pick up 3 lands.
Yeah, it's really hard for something bad to happen here.
Yeah. Not sure if Nunez knows that, but
if the Thoughtseize resolves, also that means the Polluted Delta is turned off unless either of these players have an Urborg, which means he's another turn set behind of being able to redeploy his Pearl Lake Ancient.
he's going to dissolve this.
And now, you know, if Nick's been sitting on counter spells, now he would get an opportunity to cast them too.
Yep. Fortunately for David, he was not. There's a Temple of Silence. Top card, going to go to the bottom.
So that Thoughtseize getting countered means 2 things. One is the Pearl Lake Ancient is not redeployed. And 2, Nick's Polluted Delta is still online.
Mm-hmm. There's a Dismal Backwater. Nunez is going to go up to 19. Just pass it back. Trying to sneak a Pearl Lake Ancient into play. Jace's Ingenuity to the draw here for Langella. You can see why these players have a draw. It takes a little while for these decks, either one of them, to close.
Yeah.
Because it's looking like David Nunez is going to win this game. And if that's the case, they got to try to finish another game in about 10 minutes. There's the Ancient. See Langella taking a look at his Jason Ingenuity, a bunch of lands, a Pearl Lake of his own, and then a Hero's Downfall, which is the only card he can really use to buy himself a little bit of time. And he's going to quickly untap. There's a Hero's Downfall on the upkeep to try to slow down the old Pearl Lake. See what Lance Nunez picks up this time.
Looks like he is going to put back one of the Scrylands this time.
There's a Temple. Top card going to go to the bottom. So it's still a game about trying to hit with the Pearl Lake Ancient here for David. He'll discard a land. Got plenty of those in his hand. Maybe an Ashiok drawn there for Langella, but Ashiok doesn't have a really big effect on this game.
No, that's it. Nick needs to find a way to protect himself from getting hit by Pearl Lake Ancient every single turn.
Mm-hmm. As we know, peeling a counterspell is not going to do it. Langella might be just taking a look at the graveyard and the exile zone here, just to get some information on his way out the door. I'm not convinced he has a great way about going about winning this game.
And anytime he deploys Pearl Lake Ancient as his play to try to block, he loses if David has a spell of any sort.
Yep.
Just to trigger prowess.
That's all it takes. So Langella plays land for the turn. He's going to pass. Nunez, and a turn. All right, let's try it again. Pearl Lake Ancient. Quickly untap. Draw. Blue Delta's a draw. Play a land. Bash you for lethal. Does it work? Langella's checking the graveyard. The exile zone here as well. For 6. Let's make it 7. Tap the Polluted Delta there. Yeah, there's Murderous Cut. And that'll take care of it. So David Nunez goes win game number 2 here over Nick Langella, which means we got a third and a final one, and we got about 9 minutes to do it in.
Well, 9 minutes is definitely doable if one of these players is able to get an uncontested Pearl Lake Ancient. But if they both have it, it becomes really hard.
They're just going to need to get moving, period. Now, I think that given the sideboards and the cards that Nick Langella has in his deck, I think he actually has the opportunity to steal kind of a game here with Ashiok.
Maybe.
It's the kind of card that I think can get it done. Take a look at David Nunez's sideboard. He's got this deck list. This might be exactly card for card what Turtenwald and Cuneo play, because they've got the 4 Jurubai, Merc, Lurker, 4 Drowned Sorrows, 3 Negates, 1 Thoughtseize, 2 Freakish Cures, and then a Disdainful Stroke. So very similar to what those guys played.
Yeah.
It's Pearl Lake Ancient or bust, really, for this side. What do you have on Langella's side?
4 Nyx Fleece Rams, 3 Disdainful Strokes, 3 copies of End Hostility, 3 Negate, and Empty the Pits, and a Pearl Lake Ancient. So he gets to bring in the 3 Negates, the Empty the Pits, and the Pearl Lake Ancient we saw in that game.
Okay. Oh, yeah, we did see the empty, as you did mention.
Yeah.
A creative way to go about winning. Both these players shuffled up for game 3 very quickly. I imagine they know how much time they have left, which is about 8 minutes. 9 was an overshot. For Nunez, he's got a ton of lands, not much else.
So the type of hand that Nunez has is very susceptible to Ashiok. It's just Murderous Cut, Jace's Ingenuity, and 5 lands.
I think for Nick Langella, that's the kind of hand that you are looking for is an Ashiok hand, Maybe a hand that revolves around Thoughtseize. Dismal Backwater is going to put Nunez up to 21, and I have a feeling we're going to see some speed matching between these players here in just a moment. Here's a Thoughtseize. Take a look at the grip. A bunch of lands, and as you mentioned, Jace's Ingenuity and a Murderous Cut. There goes the card drawing spell.
And Murderous Cut has very little utility in this matchup.
There's Temple of Enlightenment, top card. Where do you go? You stay on top, pass it back. Jason's Ingenuity is the draw there for Nunez, so the Thoughtseize doesn't do too much damage. As Langella will draw, does he have the turn 3 Ashiok? There's an Urborg. The answer is yes.
And Nunez play a land on tap there, trying to bluff like he had Negate as the draw step or something, but Nick's not going to play around in that spot.
Here's Downfall, Thoughtseize, and Dismal Backwater, the cards that are exiled by the powerful Planeswalker. Nunez's draw is a copy of Urborg. He's going to play an island before passing the turn back over to Langella. Langella does draw a card. It's his 4th turn of the game. You can see a Caves of Kolios in his hand. He'll start by taking up the Ashiok. So it's time to turn over a couple of cards. Thoughtseize, Perilous Vault, and a Swamp are the 3 that are gone. Caves of Kolios is the 4th land, and Langella will pass the turn back over to Nunez. Hero's Downfall is timely, but we will see if Langella does have a counterspell to stop that.
And curious to see Nunez pick this as the spot to deploy his comes to play tap land. He's been avoiding playing it, I guess, to bluff that his draw steps have been live, but now he doesn't have access to double black.
Dig Through Time and Friends are turned over there from the Ashiok. Dismal Backwater for Nunez. Take it up again. It's interesting because Nunez actually on that turn where he did draw the Hero's Downfall and play the land and play tap, because Langella did have an Urborg on his side, he actually does have access to double black, but I don't know if he knew that.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. Now he's going to fire it off. Yep, and there's a Negate to counter it. So we could be going ultimate with Ashiok in just a second here.
Also keep in mind these decks, there's no elixir. There's nothing like that. So from this position, if the second copy of Pearl Lake Ancient is exiled through Ashiok, and David can't even win.
Yeah, and Nunez is just going to concede the game. Oh, it doesn't look like he's going to, but it is, because he picked up his lands, So he's just going to concede the game to Ashiok, who just ran rampant on this game. Again, exile all cards from all opponents' hands and graveyards, and that does it. And you mentioned if he does get another copy of Pearl Lake Ancient, that does it as well.
That's it.
But the fact that Ashiok is going to be in play afterwards, because it ticks up in 2s, so it ticks up in odd numbers, and to remove and use the ultimate, it's even numbers, so it's going to go from 11 down to 1 and still keep doing its thing.